Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm introducing you to Roegshanda Pascoe. She's a lifelong activist in the Menenberg area, and this is her story. Welcome, Roegshanda, to the show, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm Roegshanda Pascoe. I was not born Roegshanda Pascoe. When we moved to Menenberg in '79, the people, or the children that I grew up with, which we all are adults now, knows me as Ursula. I embraced Islam, 93, 92. My activism, I think I was at the tender age of 13 years old when I started out, and that came about where I was very depressed. You know, we all come from dysfunctional families in our communities, and I had this urgency of wanting to know why. I always had this question of why. And a good friend of mine, Jacqueline Richards at that time, she then passed me the specific day while I was sitting on the street corner, and by that time she was already part of the youth movement, and she said to me, "Why are you sitting? Come with me and we're going to do some drama and dancing." And me not politically really inclined at that time, I just thought, okay, maybe it's a distraction that I can be part of. Going there, I realized the dramas that they are working on is telling the story of what is actually happening within our lives. And that is where my political orientation started, because now they are in this student movement, and they are speaking, they have these political conversations, and I started to learn and get answers to my whys at that time. Why certain things, why is the struggle so bad in the house, and so on. And she really wrote me in there. I was at that time not much of a speaker, much of an introvert, yes, and I think the stage at that time and the dancing gave me an opportunity to express my emotions and my feelings. I went to secondary school at Phoenix High, and that is where I was, I think, a full-blown activist by that time. And I had seniors like Christine Jansen. There was Voltela the priest that fought the housing challenges that Menenberg faced. Yeah, she headed the Civic Association. You had Owen Munro, you had Irvin Kinners there, and all those young people at that time. They were in the process of developing the Menenberg Safety, the Menenberg People Center. So it was not built at that time, was it? And I was part of that movement, and then we SRC on school, and now totally into politics, learning, and so then I joined the movement of the Congress of South African Writers. I could really write, yes, my heart out, put it on paper and so forth. And that was, I think, my coping mechanism, or the thin line where I could find balance between the dysfunctionality at the house, and then having this movement where I could outlive everything that bothered me. And so it was my secondary family that I found where I fitted in, which I, up to today, do not regret that moment, because why, it made a lot of positive imprints on my life. I think a flame started to burn within me, and I always had this dream as a child that I wouldn't want children one day, but I wouldn't want children to ever go through what I'm going through, and for that reason I would put my effort, you know. As a child, you had this dream, and I had this dream. I constantly said to God, I just want two things. Make my mother stop drinking so that she can take care of us. And the other part was, give me the strength so that I can help other children that find themselves in the same situation. And that was a dream that never left me. It never left me. I know I was 16 years old and I totally rebelled. I was angry. I was very angry. Like my grandfather was a very racist person. He hated black people. And my skin color did not really impress him. And now this letter of the Congress of South African Writers is coming to his door. The blow of that head was enormous. He just wanted to phone the police because a terrorist is living in his house. And so we were also brought up with discipline. So I constantly had to hide me being part of the movement and also eavesdropping on their conversations in the house of how they feel and so on. That triggered me, I think, more to just because I was the rebel that constantly wanted to do some things to anger them in order to ask me, why am I doing this? And we come from an era where adults felt children did not have a voice. So they never asked the question, but why? Later years when I got married only, that questions came. But in my youth and as a child, you just had to accept this is the situation and you don't have a say in it. So, but today when I look back and I reflect, I say to myself, I'm to a certain extent very happy because I did better by my children. I did better by a lot of other children in my community.
And by yourself as well.
And I had this feistiness of claiming my space and nobody's going to take that. So yeah, it's been years that I've been doing this. I worked in the factory. I went to work in the clothing factory. In fact, I worked for the most famous factory, Peeler Shirts in Observatory, which my aunt used to work there, and she gave me an opportunity at the age of 15. So I started out there as a young girl, and when I came there, we know that in the factory it's rough. It's adult women, they are hardcore, and I think to a certain extent, they have molded the strength within me to stand tall, because it was women against adversity, single mothers that had to fend for their children. Yeah, I'm a young girl, very innocent, and I found myself amongst this woman. Some things I cannot explain. I find myself being one of the substitutes. So at all times, this activism has followed me through my life. And I turned 21 in the fact that I got married there. My first child was born, and that is when I left Peerless Shirts in 95.
And I think you can truly say you were at the coalface. You came in hardcore and you were there.
I always say that I come from an era of activism where I was thrown into the deep end and had to find my way out. And sometimes people misinterpret when I come down hard, and maybe it's wrong from my side because times have changed, but I had to think on my toes, think very quickly and act very quickly. So that is the school that I come from. If you speak about leaders like Christine and Valdira, they made impressions and positive impressions on my life. Valdira is a very good person when it comes with advocacy, lobbying, and educating yourself to understand more, and that is what I've taken from her. Christine's feistiness in a meeting when we have to go and fight to get something, she would stand tall, and I've taken that from them. I've taken it with both hands and said, I want to be this. So I always see and look back at them as my mentors and my foundation layers of who I am today as an activist. Um, the sadness always for me is that the youth do not have the same opportunities as I at that time. I could be many things. I could have been the drug dealer. I could have become a prostitute. But they opened the door. It came through Jacqueline, and she opened the door, and I entered into their space, and they harnessed me and they helped me. Just looking back of where I came from on the stage, I could live out my life, say it out loud, and in my personal capacity, I would be the silent girl and just watching everything. So the stage was my voice, even in the dancing that I did. And so I think I went to another factory, which was in Brickhill Road, Marielle and Caviar. I worked there. There I met a gay woman, also struggling woman, which I had a lot of respect. Again, I took a stand tall when it came to where we challenged the boss again. And again, I was leading the woman.
Natural
So
leadership.
I'm always a troublemaker.
And not really a troublemaker as such, but just standing up for your rights and what is right.
And you know, you learn to survive certain things that people wouldn't, or women wouldn't naturally speak about it. Myself, I was still struggling to just be open about, hey, I don't have food. But women also have this form of dignity that they want to hold on to, because that is the only thing that they have to hold on to work hard to provide for their families, and also not be insulted by those that they care for. And so I still are very much in contact and friends with a lot of my factory worker friends, and they are the exemplary, or my torch that I'm carrying. I always remind myself constantly, it's not for me, it's for all of us. It's for their children, for our children, that I'm doing this, that I'm putting myself at stake.
And I think just going there, you've at many times put your life in danger, where you actually had to get out of a place because of the danger that you put yourself, and it's really about the community that you're protecting.
And I think that coming into that space is the saddest for me. I think last year, it was last year, 2019, that in 2016 I witnessed a murder, and that was where my soul was totally confronted. I had to make a choice, putting my life and my children's life at stake for truth and justice, or do as everybody does, turn a blind eye and walk away. The kind of person that I am, and those that know me, I'm a deep feeler. I'm an activist with passion. I love what I'm doing. I'm living my life. I'm living my purpose. I think it's something that many people can say. And once you have reached that point, there's no turning back. And that was, at that particular point, that was where I was at. Because I, just before that, before the murder transpired, I sat in my dining room one day, and shooting was going crazy. And I see Cape Town TV crew was there, and they parked in front of my gate. And the guys were holding the car as a shield for them to shoot from behind. And the journalist, it was I think his first time confronted in such a situation. And I ran out and I told the guys, no man, this is not fair. But the others were shooting back, and I was making a whole noise.
Oh my gosh.
But I could see them being shaken. And funny enough, not one bullet had hit the car. Though the car was their shield, the guy's shield. And we went on with the interview, the documentary that we might be walk down the street and so
Oh my word, what better interview than that can you get? Oh,
But
God,
after
actually.
they've left, you know, and this is one thing that I would want to tell people out there. This is the sacrifice that activists are making, and we do not speak about it. And I want to bring justice to my activist sisters and brothers out there. We would not say we do not have bread. We would not say there's no electricity tonight. We are hustling. Yet we keep that brave face and smile out there. But inside, you are hurting very deep. And that specific day, after everything just went quiet, I sit in my dining room and I said, you know what? God, if you are really there, you've put me in this position, and I'm happy for what I'm doing. I do it with the utmost love and respect for my fellow people. Will it be at the cost of my family, where I'm not even able to provide a bread for my children if they come out of the school? What will happen if I got shot? Who will look after my children? And you know, that's why I have this new thing of One Love. That's my signature name. And I always say, activism asks the individual to walk in spirit and in faith.
And a calling at the end of the day, a real calling.
Yeah, a real calling which nobody to a certain extent can understand it. But what happened? Global Initiative contacted me that day.
Wow. Wow.
And they brought the lifeline. The partnership and the journey started with him. And started out with him giving me a 6-month contract. And I didn't care how much they would pay me, as long as I would be able to communicate via social media with people and make them alert and so on, and have that piece of bread for my children. That was important for me. That was the relevance for me.
Sure.
So, and I would give them anything that they needed. Those that I've worked with the Right to Know, I've worked in the environmental sector, I've worked at many people since I give my 100% no matter how much money you give me. Although you give me nothing, I'll give my 100% because at the end of the day, it's not the movement or the organization, it's the people that I serve that matters. So that is me.
Just on that, I had an interview earlier today, and one thing that came through as well is what they call servant leadership.
Yeah.
And I think that is what you've been doing all your life. You know, you've been serving people, you've been serving and giving. And sometimes one just wants to be recognized that this is what I've done, you know. And this is the purpose of this whole show, is to tell who is Roegshanda, you know.
And that is why you know, in 2016, that when witnessing how this young men are being killed while his 6-year-old daughter is looking onto it, and the men being part of it couldn't care less. And I felt this is a statement being given to me as an activist, and now I'm outspoken against gang violence and crime. But I felt ill. For 6 months I was out of it. I had to go for trauma counseling. And then in that process of trauma counseling, trauma center, and Waldie van Renen really being a support pillar for me and my family at that time, a threat came to my life. The threat was so terrible. So some of the gangsters that are in support of the work that I do, that are already in this mess and are not able to exit, want me to say, hey, we're coming for you. And I then moved out of Cape Town for a week, and it was the week of the election. And then 30 police came to my house. And they threatened my children, and in fact told my son We don't care who you are, who your mother are. And my daughter took a tall stand and in keeping them outside of the house because they just wanted to know where I am and wanted to get into the house. And my daughter said, but you're not coming into our house. And I had to call on some fellow leadership in Menenberg to say, go and support and help my children there because the police is attacking them. So, and
nothing, those guys are still police, they're still going on.
My neighbor's son was slapped by him for also standing up with my children against him to say, what do you want here? Why don't you go and search for the real perpetrators in our communities? So yeah, that is when I realized also that although I haven't committed to testifying already, the threats are coming. So good and fine, because I knew it all along. In 2013, my daughter was shot, and they thought it was me. So she was shot through the leg. Then we organized a march with NUMSA. NUMSA was a partner in Menenberg against crime and violence, and that day this young man also shot at us with the ETV crew there. And funny enough, no bullet has touched me.
Wow, thank you.
One bullet went into the knee of the colleague, our secretary at the time of the Menenberg Safety Forum. So I don't know, maybe it's a blessing in disguise, maybe it's just God protecting me, knowing there's a task at hand. So yeah, I've been in a lot of moments where I have been threatened. We were part of an engagement, gang mediation, and they kind of lost their cool in the meeting. My late colleague Jimmy George is passed on now. And I remember when we were done with the meeting, he didn't want to go home and tell his wife what had just transpired, that we in fact could have been killed. He came to debrief at my place, and
I think that was the movement with Irvin Kinner's thing and all those guys that were trying to get some kind of order in Menenberg back or something like that at one stage.
Yeah, they also did it. They also did mediation. So yeah, my children only later on realized when me and Jimmy spoke about it, and because I constantly laughed and Jimmy said, Shanda, it's no joke. And I said to him, at that specific moment, I said, God, if it's my time, I'm prepared to die with my boots on here, so helping my community. So, and that is kind of woken Jimmy up, and I must salute Jimmy, because Jimmy was in his late 60s, still being part of activism in the community. And he was an MK soldier.
And the sad part is a lot of solutions and stuff that you've suggested, I presume over the years, nothing has been actioned. So you can go to a police station and say, listen, here's the guy and there's the guy and that guy, and nothing happens. So it's almost like it is intended that it must be like this, because if there's peace here, these people are going to become real activists and they don't need to worry about gangsterism or whatever. And I think, just saying, I think it was part of a plot of the then apartheid government to keep the people at bay. Because you couldn't go to meetings because you're too afraid the gangsters are going to attack you along the way. So it was a mechanism of them to control the people inside as well. So they were also complicit in this gangsterism that we have today, and it just now perpetuated into the new system now. Now we've got a lot of corrupt cops, we've got a lot of cops on tape, so you don't even know who you can trust anymore.
So I have this thing, we started out in 2012-13, the Menenberg Safety Forum, where this young boy of 6 years old was shot in his spine and lost the use of his legs. And ever since that time, I started looking closer, because I was doing community work, but I was not so focused because we have the urban and so on, Owen that was a CPF, that you kind of trusted these people will sort this part out, and we were working on other things. But with that day, my focus totally shifted to the crime and violence in our area. And from that day onwards, as I got closer to understanding what is really happening, so much has been done in Menenberg. So much people has put in, and still there was no solution. Why not? That is when I realized that although we say we live in a state of democracy have adopted the apartheid system and are just finishing the job that the oppressor of apartheid wanted to do. And so when I came out to say, I have no interest in the politics, I've distanced myself from the ANC, I don't want to have anything to do with the DA or anybody. It was not because I wanted to just make a noise. It was because wanting to make people stand still and pause and say, what have we done wrong? Because we are in trouble now. Yeah?
Absolutely.
I said to a lot of comrades at that time, you know, I'm angry at you guys. Because when 1994 came, the one thing you have forgotten, you have moved, but you haven't moved all the people with you. And so how can we expect a people that were not educated, that was given gutter education, to understand this transition, this new thing that's coming? Then politically all these promises were made. Now how can you make a promise to a person, everybody's going to have a washing machine?
Oh my word.
You create then this dependency syndrome that our people are living under today. They have forgotten how to fish. They just want. And so the gang violence, the shooting is but a system and a new government that we as the people with the system has created to make the gang leader, organized crime, the heroes and the service providers.
Unbelievable.
And now we sit where social development is not giving service, the justice system is not giving service, our police is not giving service, not a department, housing is not giving service. None of these departments that should give and make the build-up of these communities to prosper and grow, they're not giving service. Yet international funding comes in to change people's lives, whether it's out of guilt. The Europeans spend money on helping the crime issue, helping the social breakdown, and so on.
Something that just came from the previous interview I had as well, is that a lot of these NGO people are living the life, and I'm not they need to be there. I admire what they're doing, but a lot of money, or the funds that come through admin, and the money that filters down is trickle sometimes. It doesn't reach the people that really need to be changed. And like you said, the gangsters now, I just watched something on Sunday, I think it was called The Fix, Karima Brown and so on, and they said these gangsters are getting so involved now where they're actually saying who must go for political office. So in other words, there's never going to be a change. Our people's lives are not going to be changed. In other words, we're perpetuating this gangsterism that we've created now, but we don't want to stop it because it's now part of the system.
And it's part of our income.
There we go.
Because if there's going to be no murders, does the undertakers have work? If there's not going to be people that are maimed and paralyzed, is the hospital, the health system going to work? That is how this dysfunctionality feeds into that next level of people, that feeds from this pain and hurt that others are feeling. So we have the three parallel levels of class. And that's why it's not the real racism that's an issue. It's class. And the gangs are wanting to be part of that class.
There we go. And like you said, a lot of them actually succeeded in getting there. They are now seen as heroes, some of them. They've got the money, they've got the flashy cars, and sometimes they even come into your area not going to mention my names, but they give soup and they give food, and those people, oh wow, we don't even get that from government, but we get it from our gangsters here.
And so, why would I stop my child becoming part of the gang? He gets protection. Every Monday he gets paid. That puts food on our table. Even if I'm struggling to pay the city's rent, which they are nagging me for, they are prepared to pay it for me. If I have a death in my family, they are prepared to help me bury my loved one. So what is this politics?
Exactly.
These political parties are giving us nothing, but those guys, we can even go to them if somebody have robbed us and they will sort out that one because the police does not take note of us.
Crazy
So we're feeding into a system that are negative towards our people, our next generation that's growing up. And in fact, to a certain extent, we have legalized it. If you take one specific community, Krifgat, who owns it? People of the habitat built that houses for that people. But gangs own it. Gangs determine who gets the community hall for you. There's only one entry and one exit. And all the exits that has been created by the gangs have their lookouts. Police cannot just enter Krifgat without the gang knowing that they are coming.
And I'm just being devil's advocate. Also with the gang's permission. If you don't have permission, the police can't come in without the gang's permission.
Where did that shipment guns come out? In Krifgat. Where did the train lines that were stolen and created the space for people not to be able to go and work? In Krifgat it was found. Now we must ask, how does this gang fit into the train lines? Politically motivated, and our politicians have sold the lives of our people to the gangsters. That is period in my face. And I keep on saying, as much as it is that the gangs want to kill me, I know politicians also want to kill me. They also want me dead because nobody is taking a stand in speaking truth to matter, in saying it out loud.
I think people are now really taking note, and I think the death of this lieutenant has now really focused something that you've been fighting for all your life, and it's now suddenly become, hey, what is happening here? You know, how could it be that somebody is so important? Who are we? We are just a Roegshanda, we are Sean. Who's going to protect us if a lieutenant can't be protected, you know?
Lieutenant Kania, and if I may use this opportunity to also, because I haven't spoken ever since I received the news that he was shot, I haven't reached out to his family who made a live stream just to support him. But I would love to say to his family, thank you for sharing a husband, for sharing a father, a uncle, a brother with our nation. I think he was well aware, entering the police, he could lose his life any time. I feel it was unfair that he should lose his life over doing the right thing. I feel he should have been protected. And again, the loopholes are so big in our system and they are thinking we are blind and stupid. If security was given to him, we do not have to look into the matter to know who recall that security. It should be on paper, reported, motivated on who recall that security. So our minister is not blinding me. My greatest fear, and I will support his wife and his children to keep the state accountable if we should walk together to the Constitutional Court, because I've been done myself injustice by the system. We should do that. It's not about the money. It's about the many lives that people like Kenya wanted to save. But the system enabled them to murder and kill us that still want better for our people.
And basically protect those
Yes.
that's doing this injustices to people.
They're protecting, you can see our whole system is, our justice system give more leeway to perpetrators than the victims. That is as clear as daylight. I can tell you, I'm grateful for this detective or this private investigating company that was very blunt in saying, we do not want the shooter, we want the person that gave the order. I know from experience, we won't get there. The police won't allow us to get there. They will stop it before it goes any further, like they are stopping it now. The guy that tracked the phone are being charged with murder. But the murderer, we will not get, and it's an open and shut case. That is where it's going to end. That is what happens with even our parents in our communities that have lost loved ones. That is what happened with most of our cases. It's like a media fashion show that are being portrayed to us as the people. We're doing something, but in fact we're doing nothing. We're just making you lie down and relax. That is all that they are doing. I always say it's putting a plaster on a wound that never healed, and that has been happening out of apartheid into this new dispensation.
If I may just go a little bit further, I know at one stage we had quite a bit of effective policing, where the policing actually came and it was called visible policing. And I saw a difference at the stage, and then suddenly you didn't see it anymore. The guys just didn't rock up anymore. I don't know, you should know better, but they actually drove in between the places. They were visible to the people. People could stop them, say, yeah, here's a problem or whatever.
They would walk.
Walk as well. There was a time
they
that they walked.
Bicycles.
Yes.
And they worked in partnership with the neighborhood watchers.
Yes.
They were really in it to win it. They did it all for the people.
Absolutely. And I think maybe I should go and just ask you, what do you think is the solution? What do you think should happen? Obviously we should get rid of the corrupt cops first. That's the first thing I think. But in order to get us back to normality, and especially a place like Manenberg, Bonteheuwel and Overpark and so on, we've had the traditional gangsterism fested communities situated. It was all because of apartheid, people being forced out of certain areas, and people didn't have work and stuff, so they formed these gangs. But what do you think, like you've had this vast amount of experience working with these people and working with the youth as gangsters as well. Some of them are not bad kids, but they had a bad, like you said, they come out of a bad situation. They don't know where to go. The gangsters feed their families, so they become part of this problem that we have here. What do you say? What would be the solution, or what would you suggest? Should the government do, or the police force do? Is there any solutions that you can suggest?
Where we at now, it may seem very far-fetched, and our people are very blocked in vision because of the pain and the anger and everything that they are feeling. But what I would want to say, because it's not impossible, and I said it before, a government that does not invest in its people is a government that is doomed, destined to be doomed. So this is the first thing as the people. The people must realize that they are the government. And no matter if it's the DA, the ANC, PAC, whoever they are, We as the people must look past our differences, past our colors, past the past, and come together as a united form and call a referendum in this country because of the injustice, and the United Nations will listen to us. And then we change the past. We cannot fix entirely what was done, but we are able to recover. And recover means nobody have to be unemployed and nobody have to steal anymore. It means the true custodians of this country, which is the people, will take ownership and have oversight on our finances in this country, on how things are being done, how much politicians are getting paid, the perks that they are getting, because the people, our democracy said, the first line in our constitution says, the people shall govern. Where is our people's governance here? It's a top-down approach, and so we're saying, and I'm saying, bottom up, man. I might not have my master's degree, but I have survived against adversity. And that means I'm more than capable to be the president. I'm more than capable to bring sanity back into my community. And we can only do it if we reverse what the apartheid system has done, investing in giving dignity back to our people. Going into that areas like Manenberg and Pontyville, you think that grave flats where people have to live 12 and 13 people in a one-bedroom flat is dignity. If we cannot change that, how can we expect people's mentality to change about? So our environment and the way it's being set up is not even decent, but we expect people to act decent. Our schools are not decent. So once we as the people play a part, we invest in what our dreams were, how we would want to live. Break down these houses. You'll find all the guns that has been stolen and sold to the gangs underneath the soil. I've been asking them, bring in metal detectors, sniffer dogs, because you won't get the search, won't give you the guns.
Absolutely.
They rather brought the army to do more human rights violations and beat the people up. But they are not willing to do that, and that is why the fight of our people in this country, not only in Cape Town, because gang, it's organized crime, it's across South Africa, and they are affiliated. We've seen it in the news with high standing long gangs across the world. Mexico, they have relations everywhere, and our woman is entering the space of gangsterism now. So as much as we do not want to talk about it, we must look at the fact that 7-year-olds are running with guns in these communities, and they look at it as cool. So how many do we want to bury before we wake up? And that is why it's important for us. Even the farm murders, as much as people scream, land. What's the use of having land and I'm going to be killed on the land eventually because gangsterism is taking over. Gangsterism is going to be already in our politics, in the running of our government. We must remember this thing. We must ask ourselves, what discussions would the president want to have with gangsters that have hurt so many people in our communities? But they are being seen as an entity. And yes, they are entity. They are, thus in my view, it's my brother, it's my cousin, it's my nephew. That's the entity that they are, and they are currently killing each other. And I cannot support that. I do not see them as a separate entity out of where I live and who I was raised with and born with. And what our government is doing now is telling them we recognize, and if people go into our constitution, amendment must come to our constitution, because why? Nobody read the constitution, but in the constitution, the number 26, 27, 28 are recognized in our country's constitution, and that is why they have unions in prison, that represents them. They can, they have a say in how they are being treated in prison. And that's why we will all our life, if we go on like this, pay for their luxury outside and them having it far much better than we have it outside.
Roegshanda, I thank you. I always say these items, and it's been proven now over the time, that it's way too short. We can talk for days, but the nice thing I like about it is that we are getting to the point where we're suggesting solutions, where we're saying, listen, something is wrong. And we as a nation are seeing things are going haywire. This is not what we fought for. And you as a 13-year-old were already on that point and saying that something is not right. You know, we cannot be 50 years old, 60 years old and still fight the same battles. No. It's not right. And there's easy solutions to certain things. And you mentioned it earlier, where go into these places, go with your metal detectors, go with your dog sniffers for drugs and stuff like that. We as our community know exactly where the drug houses are, where the prostitute houses are, where the illegal activities are happening. And we will show it out to you if you come ask us, you know. So we need to get to that stage where we're serious about changing crime, criminality, and making people's lives generally happier, you know. Roegshanda, once again, I thank you. I see you as one of our heroes, our unsung heroes. You obviously quite popular. People know you. You've been in the media. You've been around, and we thank you for this thankless job that you often do. You put your life in danger. You put the life of your family in danger, and we can only take our hats off to you and say thank you. Thanks for the job that you've done.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.